días, estamos en el Thomann Gearhead University en este vídeo en directo en el que ya me veis que estoy muy bien acompañado con Samurai Guitarist, Jen Majera, Jay Lerner J, Marco Rodríguez, Gearhead y Produce Like a Pro. Y el tema es música e internet, cómo ha cambiado la promoción de la música, la composición de la música y el mercado de la música en los últimos 20 años. So, the thing is, there's an old world where we used to do gigs and a demo, and you would go to a venue and give the demo.
Everything was pretty nice and good.
We were happy and we didn't know it.
Yes.
And there's a new world where everything is so fast, and you make an album, and in a week it's like dated. So, what's the first difference that comes to your mind when you think of the old times and the new times?
Well, you have everything available at your fingertips, like every information, every song in the world, everything, like really everything. If I want to look up a recipe for how to cook slow-cooked chicken, I can find it instantly. But the same thing is true with music. If I want to hear any song, I can instantly access it. So you have to do something, since there's so much there, you got to do something to maybe make yourself stand out.
Even as a guitar player, you know, I teach a lot of young kids, and back in the days, I grew up with not even CDs. It was like, vinyl, okay, let's listen to this again. Okay, let's listen to it. And I had my first tutorial for guitar was Richie Cotton's, what was it called, Rock Chops?
I think so.
That was my VHS tape.
Oh, the Hotbook series, that was a great series.
It's so complicated, and I sat there for hours and hours, like rewind. And nowadays you just go onto YouTube, like, how to play Highway to Hell, and there, boom, you have it. It's so much information out there, and it's so easy. And I don't agree that it's better, because I had to use my ears and my brain and really spend time on my instrument listening to that music. And nowadays kids just go like, oh, number 5 on the 3rd string from the top. It's not demanding anymore if you want to learn a song. So it's cool and bad at the same time, in my opinion.
I think it can be like lower commitment, like you're saying, like it could be a little bit more shallow, but I also think there's the capability for people who are dedicated to go deeper. Like the resources are there. I don't feel like I had the same resources. Like, okay, I was like you, I got that was me with the Petrucci Rock Discipline VHS.
Here.
Okay, like, can I, real quick?
Yes, go for it. Go to chromatic state.
You know, like watch him play it once, you know.
It's the only exercise that everybody has from that video.
Okay, and that got me really far. There was a lot of other cool stuff in there, but like constantly having to rewind and wait, and like it was a big pain in the ass. And I could have spent that time learning other things. Like on YouTube, you can just scoot to anywhere you want at any moment, run it back, play at half speed. Like that's how. You know, that's like the super advanced digital version of what Clapton did, bouncing it onto a tape, playing the tape back half speed, an octave, learning the stuff an octave down. Like the same thing, but now you can just do it more. You can do it faster and better. So that's why there's all these amazing guitar players coming out these, or not just guitar players, musicians of all stripes coming out these days. I think because they didn't know about this other way, like us primitives on the VHS. So you get these crazy kids like Sims Cashin, who just like was just like a little sponge and absorbed all this stuff and absorbed way more of it. So, but that's in terms of.
But I think your point is, and I have to agree with you, is that creates individuality. This creates technical excellence. That creates individuality. Because it's interpretation, and I think that's the difference. Is like there's so many incredible musicians of all things, not just guitars, bass, drums, and everything. And I close my eyes, and you play me 5 in a row, and I'm a little bit like, I don't know who's who. Sorry. But if you play me Keith Moon, John Bonham, and Ringo Starr, they're all in rock bands, and they all sound like completely different drummers. But they all listen to the same 5 drummers to be that drummer. So I think, and I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way. And you are making a big point, which means if you come with learning, with wanting to learn, then you can take the information from all of these things. But I think as a tool, there was nothing better than I had my grandfather's record player and playing everything at 16. So I played the albums at 16, and I was like, dun, chink, chink, ching. So I had to work everything out an octave lower, and I messed up. But by messing up, I brought my own reality to it.
Yeah, exactly, and it makes you focus more on the music instead of just copying what you see.
Yeah.
Actually. But what if, for example, you have a tutorial of a song, let's say, I don't know, it's an easy song and it's explained wrong. Do the kids
And
nowadays
you need to
still
go make
have...
sure you're watching the right sources, like Marty Schwartz. You're on the right. If you're learning a song and you're not watching Marty Schwartz.
But wait, I don't know. I want to learn guitar.
If you can see a pork pie hat from where you're sitting, you're probably getting the right
Hey, it's
education.
Marty Schwartz. Marty's a good friend of mine. Hey, Marty.
I'm Marty.
We love you.
Try to look up a song online, and the chords are
so we're
always
wrong.
wrong.
Exactly.
They're never right.
Oh yeah, what's that? The
you
tab
get,
place.
like,
Yeah.
I want to learn this song, and then it's like, so okay, so first chord's G, but then you look, it's like capo on 7th fret.
Exactly.
G. You're like, what? Excuse me.
And there's and it says, and everyone says correct one.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, and they're all in different keys, and you don't even know where to start, right?
The tyranny of democracy.
There's a lot of really good things about being able, like the power that we have now, music-wise. Because we have plugins that replacing all this outboard gear. So there's a lot of great benefits to stuff like that. But then the problem is, I kind of compare it to like a movie, right? So like in a movie, say you wanted this neat green screen effect or something like that, right? Back in the day, you would have to go to the producer and you would have to sit that guy and convince him, why is it worth 30, 40, 50 million dollars in 70s money to make this one shot? Why is this shot important enough to the scene? What does it mean to these characters? What does it mean to the picture in a whole to justify that? But nowadays, since we have that power, we can just drop in any effect we want, and then you start seeing, for the lesser, the people that don't really understand what they're doing, you just see all style. And it's no substance, and I guess that's the critique, I guess, about certain people. It's like, people throw in, oh, I'll put in this effect, I'll put in this transition, I'll put this, and this, and you get these really ADD, quick, snappy, all this information, but there's no purpose, there's no, because you haven't had to fight for
Yeah,
it.
the
So,
depth of it.
yeah, it's just because it's so easy just to drag and drop it. That's like, why not do this, as opposed
But I
to...
think what's fun, you think of like those John Wick movies.
Yeah.
They're really
They're
so
spoilers.
much
They're
fun.
spoilers.
Because they're actually like training and learning how to fight, and the editing is really slow, and you can see like literally like 5-minute scenes, and they rehearsed it, and that they're so popular and so cheaply made because you got something to react against. Isn't that kind of what music's always been? There's classical music, jazz comes out, that's dangerous. Oh my God, Now we think of jazz as being safe, and then early rock and roll comes out. Oh, it's dangerous. But you listen to Bill Haley, it sounds like your mum likes it. You know what I mean? I think that's...
Wait till hip hop becomes a safe kind of music.
Yeah.
It is a safe kind of music.
It will happen.
Where is this live stream on? Is it?
It's in our YouTube channel, the guitarristas.info YouTube channel.
There you go.
There you go.
We're telling that to the people who are already there.
They're already watching it.
Tell your friends and your neighbors.
Now we were talking about video, and this question, it's about video, because back in the day it was not very strange that a band might release like 3 or 4 albums even before having their first video clip, their video music, because it was expensive, and if you were an alternative band or underground band, it was not that weird. But nowadays, you cannot think of a band that from the moment zero, they don't have a video.
Actually, the singles are videos. Like
Absolutely. Do you feel that music alone has lost power in some sense?
value, maybe.
Can I pose a question to you, all of you here?
Yeah.
Because obviously I played in bands forever, but on the production side, I can't tell you how many times I've produced a band that is negotiating, the polite way, the budget to make the record as cheap as possible.
Okay.
And we're doing it over weeks. And then they spend the same budget immediately again for one day to make a video.
Yeah.
That'd be
And I'm just like, what are you thinking?
I can tell you what they're thinking. I tell bands this
Please.
all the time, that they need to, first of all, I tell people not to make albums, and I'm a total hypocrite because I'm in the middle of recording an album right now.
Sure.
But I tell people, like, think about what your budget is. Okay, here's your budget, 100% of whatever it is. Okay, a lot of bands are spending 80%, 90% on making an album that they can't really afford, and then they're left over with 10% for promotion. Okay, they need to flip that right the fuck around. Like, you need to spend 10% of that making your probably 1 song or 2 songs, maybe an EP, and then you need to spend the rest of that on promotion. And
I don't disagree with that, but I'm not talking about promotion. I'm talking about
the video,
video.
But the video is promotion.
Yeah.
Now
but
you
since you're
shouldn't
going
have to
on
spend that much money on a video
That's
because
the
it's
problem.
2019.
Yeah, that's insane.
And
That's the problem.
But here's
for
the
a-
thing about that is like,
Yeah, they should get a friend and make the video for $150.
yes, and make the idea stand out. Because here's the thing: if you're
Exactly.
a band trying to make a music video, you're never going to be able to compete with those huge budget whatever.
Hollywood productions.
So instead, what you can do to make yourself stand out is create something creative that nobody else has ever seen. That's
Yeah.
going to be what makes you stand out with just like one camera.
Sort of like how OK Go became popular.
that's what
Okay,
I was
go.
thinking.
Yeah.
is one thing,
Yeah.
It's like your example. It's like I buy a $10 birthday gift,
Yeah.
and then I wrap it up in gold paper
Yeah,
just to
exactly.
make it look nice. It's like it's weird. Why would
Yeah,
they
you
spend
definitely
so much?
shouldn't
And there's
spend that much on a video.
And there's
but,
also,
like,
I think, like a horrible middle ground in life, like in all art, the middle ground between doing something super punk rock that's super edgy and exciting, and like the Hollywood blockbuster. The bit in the middle is horrible. Don't even go there, because if you half try and do it, it
Yeah.
just looks so cheesy.
Looks so bad.
I spent $10,000 on editing this video, but you didn't shoot it very well.
Well, so here we are at the topic video. It's very obvious that I bring in the new Rammstein
Yes.
video now. Have
Like
you
a
guys
film,
seen
like
it?
a Hollywood film.
I have not, but I've heard
It's
it's
like
amazing.
a Hollywood movie production. It's insane. And the song itself, it's okay.
Like
Oh,
other
wait,
songs on,
it's
on
okay.
their.
And
On
that
their
Rammstein, you
But-
gotta step up your song game.
I think
That
that
heard it
enemies
here
now. But they really put out like an insane production just for a music video. It's a Hollywood movie. What they
It's
did.
I have not seen it, but I read an article on it, and
Right.
from everything I've heard about it, it's a very, very powerful topic, because, contentious. Just because I feel like it's time in the century we live in to sort of move past all that shame and stuff. Let's not get too much into it, too deep, but from what I've read about it, it sounds really powerful. I'm dying to see it.
So we all could agree that definitely a video nowadays, a music video, is more important than back in the days.
It's gotta be a good one too.
Oh,
You
yeah.
gotta stand out.
Exactly.
Or at least an image. You have to be different. Just to look different, be a little crazy. Like, do see a hide your face, or do something crazy. It's because it's about getting viral now, right? So you have to find a niche or some kind of thing to make yourself different than everyone, because there's so many of us just coming out.
But at the same time, the music has to be there.
It has
So
to
you
be.
gotta
You
sing.
have to
Always
be able to back
you
it
have
up.
to have a
You have
good
to back
product.
it
The
up.
something
So-
is that the music's happening, and then you can take care of the rest. Because if you're trying to create these crazy viral videos and your music sucks, you're gonna run out of steam pretty quick.
coming from the media perspective, like, because Gear Gods is also a media outlet. We have a website, geargods.net. Check it out. So like we'll do premieres for bands for their music videos or their playthrough videos. We do a lot of that kind of stuff, and I talk to a lot of music industry folks all the time. I'm always talking to publicists, managers, label guys. Okay, the electronic press kit is dead. Do not spend
Absolutely.
money on making an EPK. Do not waste your time. The music video is your EPK, okay? Because if somebody in the industry is interested in your band, interested in trying to figure out what you're all about, they're going to go straight to your social media accounts and your music videos, because the music video should tell them everything they need to know. They'll see what you look like, what you sound like, what your whole thing is, your image, your whole image, and they'll see how many views it's got, and they'll see the comments. But if the music sucks, it doesn't
Nothing will
matter.
help you. Yeah.
The thing I get most often from label guys and girls is that they're always like, yeah, they have all their imagery together, but then I go and see them live and they suck.
Oh yeah.
I hear that 99 times more, because it's, yes, but I think one of the fears, and this is probably based on your question, is really like, where do you put your energy? And everybody's touching on it in different ways. You're talking about songs, you're talking about how you get there creatively. The reality is like, you got to have it all. You can have that thing, but that's the icing on the cake. Because if you're a label, you're like, okay, cool, I love you guys, you look great, where are you playing? Oh, we're playing at the blah, blah, blah next week. They go along, you totally suck live, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's very few instances in a rock band, if we're specifically talking about rock music, not pop, but in rock, you've got to have it all. You've got to nail it live performance.
Now, I think, so to your sort of initial pitch on us for this, like being a band in 2019, there's a lot of bands that kind of only exist on the internet. I think your internet game in general is more important. I don't want to say more important than live, because a lot of bands make their living out on the road. I think you can have more impact with a lower budget existing on the internet. To start, you can't suck live, because if you're trying to get on a label, they're going to send you out on tour.
Don't go on a label. Like, I think that's where.
Oh yeah, I'm not worried about
Well,
that.
that's a whole other thing. But let's say
I was using it as an analogy. Yeah,
if you're trying to get
almost irrelevant in many
industry attention, that's a big one. Like my band made a music video. It doesn't have a ton of hits, but it's gotten us attention in the industry from people, not just label people, but like managers and those kinds of people who they have to believe in you. So they're one of the most important groups of people to pitch to, regardless, because if you don't have somebody with some weight to throw around, none of that shit will matter. Of course, then you can't suck live, you can't have shitty songs, you gotta look good, all that.
That's also honestly, but all the rock bands I work with, whether they be like, you know, the mega whatevers, the bigger legacy ones, or even the younger ones, they all make 90% of all of their income live. It's all live because it's not only playing a show, they're selling the merch there. Like, I remember years and years ago when Metallica, right at their peak in the late 90s, they made like $1 million like in ticket sales and then $2 million in merch.
Right.
I mean, something crazy like that. I mean, people go there and go, I love this band, I'm going to spend $100.
On a beer mug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think...
Oh yeah.
I think one of the
Super
biggest
important.
differences between now and before was we live in a DIY era where we don't need to get the attention of the traditional music industry people. I've never had anyone from a label reach out to me or anything like that, because, and if they did, I would tell them I don't need them. Because we live in an age where we have the power to create and cultivate a fan base and then be instantly connected with them. You don't need those intermediaries.
You don't need
which
the
is beautiful.
label in between anymore. Because if I want attention, I think what young musicians, if they want to put out their music, it's so easy with all those social media and YouTube. It's so easy to put your music out and get the attention of people. You don't need a label to help you with that.
Yes.
And the times of having a label work kind of like a bank, so they loan you money so you can do that, it's over too. Like you have the direct
triggers
contact.
one of my questions, because especially not very big bands, like for example, I might have a band of friends, and I see they are struggling to keep a super high level video clips, spending their money, super high level recording, and they do a record and it's difficult. They do the second record, it's more difficult because they didn't recover from the previous one, and they do a third record. Sometimes they say, hey guys, we have to stop, that's it.
I go to work at the grocery store.
So the alternatives are maybe the samurai guitarist point of view, do your video, be original, you don't need to spend a lot if you're creative. Or maybe they are thinking, maybe after the third record we will be lucky and a big company will start supporting us. So what you say is, that's over.
That's all.
Yeah, but you should get a promotion company work with you.
This is what I wanted to say.
Right? Because that's the most important. I did my last solo album, Insanity. I did a crowdfunder, which I used to pay the promotion company, get the recordings done and everything, and the artwork. And I didn't want to have that old ball and chain label. So I'm independent. I own every rights of my music, and I can do whatever I want. And I can also direct the way I want my album to be promoted. You know,
Yeah, you're in control, which is nice. We live in the age of control. Whatever I put into the world, I have absolutely 100% control, which is
exactly, and that's so
great.
important.
I know someone telling me I can't do that.
The only caveat, so I'm mostly on board with you. The only caveat that I have heard about is that record labels still have a pretty big monopoly on the touring industry in a lot of ways. Like, they can put you on big tours or not. Touring is extremely expensive. So,
Very expensive.
so they will bankroll your touring because it's in their best interest to do so. And if you try to do it yourself, which you totally can do,
Which is
but,
tough.
which is hard. But
Well,
you
I can
like
give first-hand
if you
experience
lose
on
your
that.
ass, you're done. If you lose money on a tour but you're on a label, you could still be all right.
Relationships are the most important thing. I can tell you the story. So when I did the first Fred record, and I played it to my friend Scott Schreiner, who's the bass player in Weezer, and he's like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And then like 2 weeks later, Weezer are looking for an opening act, and they have 10 CDs laying on the table of different bands that are being pitched to do it. And he goes, oh yeah, my friend worked on that record, that's pretty cool. I go, oh yeah, let's take them. I mean, that's literally how the decision is made. People believe that it's like, oh, a committee gets together and we run the numbers. It's just not like that. So the lesson in that really, and it's the thing that I think all musicians, I tell myself, because I used to be this, stop being an a-hole. Stop like being, oh, that band sucks.
Thank you, yes,
you guys suck.
Oh, Jen, let's see your shirt.
You know what I mean? Yeah, ego.
Yeah, right.
Nice. Stop being like, get on with other bands, because the band that you hate might suddenly have a top 10 single in Venezuela, and they're looking to take a band.
Exactly.
And you're like, you guys suck, and then they're not taking you.
You could be the best looking, sell the most, and if you're a piece of shit to work with, nobody cares.
Never.
Exactly.
They'll
Build
100%. They'll take guys who are easier to work with, people who are friendly and fun to be around, because they're going to be on the road with them for a month. Like, they won't take assholes.
It's
They
the
won't
same
put up
thing.
with it.
It's the same thing if you have to replace a band member.
Yep.
It's easy to find an excellent musician. It's easy. The world is crowded with really talented, great musicians. But then you got to find somebody who's cool enough to play in front of thousands of people and be on the road, live on the bus, and that kind of touring lifestyle.
Yeah.
That limits the people you would pick. And then it's the toughest one. You need to find somebody who you actually can stand to be with 24/7. And that shrinks your list down to like, what, 3 people? It's about being a human being.
And on top of that, even if you find a bunch of people that you get along with, are they going to get along with each other?
Exactly.
They might, and they might not. But if they have the right attitude, then they can find a way to make it work. You know what I mean? Like, if you get hired to be in a band, or you're, or you join a band, you don't know right off the bat that you're going to get along with everyone. But if you're extremely professional, if you have a really good attitude, and you are easy to work with, it won't be a problem. Pete Thorne, he's a hired gun often, so he gets in all these different situations with different kinds of people, different personalities and everything. But he's super pro, and he's got a fucking A+ attitude. So that's why he gets hired all the time.
Well, just from personal experience, the biggest people I've ever played with, like the biggest acts I've ever go on, you play the arena, the musicians are always by far the easiest people to work with. And actually each level I've gone down, the levels of bands I've played in, it's a surprise. It's not a surprise. It's not a surprise correlation that, like, if you're just doing a pickup as a favor for a friend and you're playing with a certain band in a small place, they're the typical cynical musician that talks about how bad the industry is and how there's no gigs.
You should shoot a reality show with the guys at the
and then the guys at the top, and you'll notice once you get to, and I'll tell you, the guitar player or the keyboard player in that band that's a little bit cynical, and they're just playing or whatever, and the keyboard, the guitar player or whatever in the huge band, there's not a big difference skill-wise, right? Really, what it comes down to when you're doing the big thing is how, like, your attitude and also how you can handle things when things go wrong. Those are really the two
That's
things.
the big one, actually. The second one is when things go wrong.
When something screws up, because everyone's good when it's going great, but when you break a string or your guitar pedals aren't working, can you handle that, right?
Oh my god!
Yeah, you can't be that, try to draw attention to yourself kind of thing, right?
Well, like when you're on tour, like such a small percentage of that time is being on stage. The majority is like sitting on a tour bus. And if you're in those situations, those close quarters, and you're bored and you hate everyone, you're gonna have a bad time. But like all the people I've been with in those situations, they're always just easy and fun to hang out with. And it's genuine. It's very genuine.
And
too.
it's so important because the show, we with Evanescence, we play a show like 90 minutes max. So what about the other 22.5 hours? Every day, like, right? You don't want to have an asshole.
Absolutely. There's this other new thing that sometimes you find an artist not because of his or her record, but for other reasons. For example, there's this example of Ravi Amasad or Ola Englund that maybe you start watching his reviews.
Hi Ola, if you see this, your biggest stalker says, hi Ola, I love you.
And you start watching his videos, his reviews, his everything, and you end up maybe listening to his records. And I think that's kind of new because 20 years ago that didn't exist. What do you think of that way of getting to people?
Like the personality gets you interested in the music?
Not the personality, but the content, because 30 years ago you had a band, that's all. But now you're a reviewer, you also make interviews, you also make content, you write articles, and you make your own music. So you get people...
your own products.
Exactly. To your music, maybe through other ways that are interesting too, not necessarily just playing.
I don't know.
Okay.
You know, I feel like that always existed. It's just expanded.
Okay.
You know what I mean? All my
So it's a
favorite.
different version of something that already existed.
I mean, but then there's sort of. I remember when I first moved to America, I met somebody. I was working with them, and they're like, "Wow, your English is so interesting." They're like, "That's so interesting," and I was like, "What do you mean?" They said, "Well, the thing was like living in Los Angeles in the '80s. They said they could like go to a bar, and Tommy Lee was standing next to them.
Okay.
You know, in LA." And they said the thing about Zeppelin was like they lived in castles. And like they all worshipped the devil. You live in a castle. There you go. But you know what I mean? That's sort of like, so there's a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It's like there's always been, you know, ways to connect really closely, and then there's also been ways when it's not. So there's actually artists that benefit from mystery. And I don't know anything about Rammstein. Maybe there are things, but there's artists that are dark and mysterious and crazy.
Mysterious, yes. It was that rock star mysterious cloud about that person, and it takes away all that stardom.
Sure.
Is stardom a cool word for that?
Yeah.
Because now I can go on social media and text Ola, and oh my God, he's replying. You know, it's back in the days I was a giant Richie Sambora fan. I'm a girl, so at the age of 6 I like Brazil. So.
Right.
If I see now when I answer like short messages on Instagram or something, when fans are sending me texts and I reply, they freak out completely. And I just remember back in the days when I was a kid, how cool would it be if I would have the opportunity to just shoot Richie Sambora.
And he would reply.
And he replies. You actually can talk to your idol.
Yes.
It's a cool thing,
Creates a
but
connection.
it takes away the mysterious rock star thing.
Here's the problem
right?
that I've encountered with this.
Fuck problems, got solutions. Come on.
Hopefully you guys have one. So, you know, I've got my band, In Virtue. Check us out. And
.com or .net?
it's .net.
.org.edu. It has to start with www.myspace
.gov.
.co.uk. So, we made a music video. We put a pretty good bit of money into it.
We know that now.
What's the
And
name
we
of the
have-
song? On the
It's
YouTube?
called Purgatory.
Okay, cool.
And we have a YouTube channel as well. So we don't have a ton of subscribers. We're less than 1,000 at this point. But a lot of those people have come over from the Gear Gods YouTube channel. Now, people who know me for Gear Gods know me for my on-screen personality, some of my guitar playing, you know, my
Selfless promotion.
my selfless promotion, my just absolute like gross
Shameless self-advertisement.
shameless bullshit. And then when they see me doing my thing as the singer and guitarist of the band, it's like different. Like they see it through this lens of weird expectations, and also like, how do I put this? As a musician, having musicians as fans is terrible.
I'm your
Like
fan.
they're the. Thanks, Jen. I'm a fan of you. Not the band you two. They fucking suck.
Whoa! Hey now!
Whoa!
Yay! Yay!
That's an opinion right there.
No. Anyway, I can have strong opinions. It's okay.
Jesus killed last night. Episode of
YouTube was they were checking out your page and we went, we're going to ask this band to open for us. And you
perfect example.
Yeah, but also
he was just talking about this.
starting beef with other bands can also be a good way to promote. Anyway, but having musicians as fans is not ideal. They're the most critical. They're the most vocally critical, and I think they buy the least amount of stuff. So I
get nervous when I play shows and like musicians that I really admire are watching me play.
Yeah.
The last time it happened to me, I had to play. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll with an Italian cover band.
Okay.
So I played this, and Guthrie Govan was.
Oh no!
I had so much pressure. They're like, play solo, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yo, I was
I
at
know
NAMM
what
at
you
the Kiesel booth, just like noodling. Per Nilsson comes around the corner and goes, "Show me what you got." And I was like, "Well, oh well, and I just fucked up. You know,
power chord.
I-
That's it.
When there's someone important in the room, I love it. It's a challenge in life. It's
Oh, yeah.
fun. It's
That's
exciting.
the
Like
right
this is it. Because how many times do we talk about that moment? Every time we talk about, oh, we want to get discovered. Oh, so if you get discovered, guess what? You're on. Lights on. It's time.
Yep.
Go do it,
That's-
right?
Mom spaghetti.
That's
You know what I
literally how I got the gig with Evanescence.
Yeah.
I played on a festival with another band, and Alex Rowling from Testament, he was watching our show, and he forwarded my name, so that's how I got the gig.
Yeah.
It's not because I play outstandingly great. It's just
Which you do.
I do. I'm at the right spot at the right time, and I meet the right people, and I'm
with the
a
right
normal
attitude.
person. I'm a normal person.
With the right
I was
attitude.
Exactly.
the way I was playing at the Venetian Hotel in Macau, which is like it's like the Las Vegas of
Yeah.
Asia. And we're playing. It's like a 3 a.m. We're the party band, and it's like a night. It's like Tuesday. It's pretty dead, and we're doing a show. And we're blah blah blah. We're doing our thing, and it just so happened that the music director for this big pop star in Hong Kong was there, and that's how I got the. And it wasn't. And I found out months later. I ended up getting a gig going to Hong Kong, having to do the DVD thing at the Hong Kong Coliseum. I wouldn't have gotten that gig if you didn't have you got it every time. There's a moment. That's what it's about.
And you always give your best. It doesn't matter if you
Every
play in front
time.
of 10 people
Every
or
time.
10,000. Give your best with every show when you play. When you're on stage, give your best because the audience, it's not their fault if it's only 10 people. They deserve the best of you, and you never know what's happening.
That's what you're doing it. And
Yeah.
you have a cold, you have a bad day. It doesn't matter. It's your job.
Exactly.
Enjoy it. It's a good job.
What happens to me with the band that I'm now?
Be grateful to
What
have
happens to me
that.
with the band that I'm now?
Do you see in the near future streamings being the standard for live shows? And I don't mean
It already
streaming.
is.
No. I mean not streaming your actual live show, but musicians closed in a room
With no live audience.
with no crowd,
Streaming.
streaming,
Oh,
and
yes.
even maybe 360 degrees, something like that. Do you see
Or
that?
3D.
No, that would be,
Hologram from
that'll
your
be
house.
part of it. But everyone, the live experience and like being in the room and feeling that energy, that's something special.
feel the
And
energy.
it'll never go away.
Okay.
I think that can be part of it. I think you
I
have
mean,
to, but
I'm-
that will never go away.
I hope not, but I don't know that that's necessarily.
I think
It's kind of like.
it'll
Do you ever
still
see the
always
movie? Oh gosh, what's the one? Demolition Man.
Yes.
Yes.
And when VR sex has replaced real
Yes.
sex.
Yeah, that's not that
And,
far off.
and he's like, no, I want to have sex with you. And she's like, ew, like transmission of fluids.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. Like-
I feel like there's.
We could hit that point with music. I hope that we do.
I don't think so.
I feel
because
like
I still
think
want to
there's a human
experience.
nature, right? Music
Yeah.
about it's a communal
Exactly.
thing, right? Like sex. Like no matter how good your virtual sex doll's gonna be,
Sex is a
I'm be honest with you. Like maybe some people might just decide that's not worth it. But I think, for a bigger majority of people, a lot of going to the concert isn't even about the music.
It's about the experience.
You know what I mean? Like most people, sometimes people go to concerts. It's not about.
I think
You,
it's
you
just gonna
can't
be-
get virtual vomit on your shoes.
Yeah, virtual.
But I think it's going to be about expanding those.
Yeah,
It's like now, when I was a kid, there was a lot of guitar players in my town.
There was a Super 8 guy filming.
But I imagine now there's 10,000 times more guitar players playing guitar because of access. I think that's all it comes down to. Yes, there will be virtual stuff, and that's the only way. Maybe that's $50 a month, subscription to see 10 shows a month or whatever. I mean, the reality is like going to shows now is insane. I wanted to see the Phil Collins tour, so I thought, it might be the last time he ever plays. And the nosebleed seats were $600, and I don't care if I got the money or not. I'm not paying $600 to go. Look, there's
That's true.
That Lego is Phil
Yeah.
Collins.
But speaking of
So I
live
think it's just
streaming,
access. It's going to increase access.
but speaking of live streaming, I think it became a standard thing nowadays that you live stream shows. We just finished a month of touring in the States, and literally every show was live streamed on YouTube.
Wait,
So
wait.
it's
How
a
many?
regular
How
thing
many
now.
of you guys have actually sat down and live streamed a concert?
They live stream or watch one?
Like I want not a concert movie, like something like Stop Making Sense. But like, when was the last time you sat on your computer, made a date? Oh, they're gonna live stream this concert at 8 p.m. and you sat down and watched the concert.
I never have.
I did it
Right?
once. I watched Guns N' Roses on Periscope. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But then I went and saw them like a couple weeks later.
So you
and
still-
that was,
you still saw them. You still
and it
can-
was-
I think the
totally
live
different.
streaming increases the chance that you're going to buy a ticket to
I think it's just promotion. That's what it is.
Promotion.
I don't see it replacing it.
I did it once in my life, and just because my friend was playing with that band.
Yeah,
That doesn't count. So
But I'm thinking of like people who are digital natives, like kids who have always grown up with the internet.
yeah.
I'm wondering what their take on it is, because I feel like I'm a little too old to be objective about it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that the live music thing will never die. But maybe if you're 15,
You should ask
you
a
don't care.
15-year-old.
I should ask a 15-year-old.
And also, there's the temptation for a promoter or for a band who is organizing a tour. It's the temptation of not having to spend money on bus, on hotels, on renting food. You don't have to, because you have a perfectly set up lighting stage with no one inside.
I tell you what the thing is. People need events.
They need something to do.
They need events. They need live shows. They need to go out after works for working like 40 hours or something like that on the weekend. They need events.
I
Yeah,
remember,
we're in Germany.
here's a good analogy for me. I remember going to see Albert Collins when I was a kid. And I only got one ticket, and I couldn't get anybody to go with me. And I remember going to see it and like being teary-eyed about how amazing it was, and I had nobody to share it with me. So I think that I don't think live concerts are ever going to go away, because there's also it's like a sporting event. You know, if your team is playing down there and you're the only person in the stadium, what's so exciting?
Going back to that 15-year-old kid will. You know, if you ask that 15-year-old kid, hey, do you want to go watch the NBA Finals? Do you want to go, or do you want to watch it on TV? I'm pretty sure that 15-year-old kid's going to 100% every time say, I want to be at that game. So what makes music any different?
Yeah, I think, like everybody's saying, it's going to be access for people who couldn't go, and promotion.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's go into recording, because recording has changed a lot. Most of you probably send files back and forth thousands of times just to make a song.
Never.
Never? You do everything?
I do.
So,
I mean, I'm from Germany. It's in America.
so the thing is, do you still write music with your actual band in a room sometimes, or you definitely stop doing that?
In my case, with Rage, what I do is PB and myself, we are the main songwriters, and we get together, we develop everything thanks to your drummer and all that. Toontrack.net, endorse me, alright. I'm just coming your side.
I am endorsed by Toontrack.
So what we do is just get together, we put the ideas together, we do the rock song, and we go to the, you know, the Rage is a pretty 35-year-old band, so we do that, and we go to the rehearsal room, we try the stuff, and then we go back, produce the stuff, and then we just, that's what we do. Okay. This is how we do
But
it.
are you asking if we record live in the studio?
No, what I'm asking is, when it comes to write the songs, to create a song, do you still meet with your bandmates or your friends to do
I
it?
think it's necessary if you're a band.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
If you are a band, if you're a solo artist, then
and it's hybrid now, right? Like you kind of do both. Like, you know, like we do movie cues and stuff like that. Like the director still comes over and looks at the foot, you know, and he talks it over. But then once you kind of get going, it's now you're just sending each other ideas back and forth via phone. But there's still that check-in. There's still the moment to get all the ideas and stuff like that.
I'm of two minds about this, because I think you can get really cool results by getting together in a room and playing together. But I hate doing that. Like it's too much chaos for me to like organize in my brain a lot of the time. I think it's good for coming up with raw ideas, but I have really bad ADHD.
But you're all living in the same country,
City,
right?
yeah, even in the same city. So we could be getting together to write. But my favorite band in the universe has, I think I maybe witnessed their very first band rehearsal. Maybe not the first one, but they never played any of their songs together before they recorded them. They sat down and wrote them.
Probably not even when they recorded. Did they do a live recording, like the band was playing together?
No, of course
That's not
not.
how you track.
Nobody
They didn't even
tracks
play
like that
together.
anymore, but for the most part. So, but like it's like the two main songwriters. They sit down and they write the songs. They track demos. Everybody learns their parts. They go in the studio separately and learn them. And then a lot of times they don't even practice as a band before they hit the stage. Everybody just learns their parts really, really well. They might play a little bit at sound check and that's it. And those are, then they've written my all-time favorite songs, made them literally my favorite albums. So
what's the band?
What's the band?
oh, it's Amaranth.
Ah, yeah. Amaranth. They're mine.
.com.
Hi,
Okay, so I think they're the shit. But like, I was just in Sweden hanging out with them. They were doing a production rehearsal. They were like, we never do this. They're trying to up their, and they're still fucking great live. They still hold it together. They're great. But their albums are phenomenal. Their songwriting is top notch. They don't need to get together as a band and play it. Would it be better if they did that? I don't know. I have not found that to be true. I found that everything I've ever written with a band altogether has been like too many cooks, a sloppy, chaotic mess. It's always some really weird song form where we're trying to shove in parts to make everybody happy. You know what I mean? The bass player came up with an idea, and if we don't use it, he's gonna feel like he's not
about the
involved.
song credits and rights and shit like. Well, when it comes to songwriting, I did my solo album Insanity. My solo album. My name is Jen Majura.
It's Jen Majura,
And I
everybody.
okay. I wrote all of the songs in a tiny little room alone at home, and in the studio I told my I could play the bass, but I was like, no, a bass player feels different, thinks different. I want to get a bass player, and I had an awesome drummer, and I told them how to play my songs. That's easy. But if you work as a band, for example, we are writing with Evanescence right now. It's happening. With the first writing, there are a couple of writing sessions, and what we do is we meet up and exchange ideas. So there's a Dropbox file where everybody puts ideas in, and then you would combine it and work on the songs. Sometimes the first writing session, for example, took place in Nashville, and I wasn't there because I was already back in Germany. That's the trouble when you live on the wrong side of the pond, in my case. So Amy and the boys met up, and I've already heard what they work, and it sounds awesome. I really think it's going to be a killer album. So the next writing session is when we'll be back touring in July, and then there's like more writing with all the five of us. And who knows, maybe it's just going to be the bass player and Amy then, or the drummer and the guitar player and Amy. It's all free for, like, it's a new way of writing. Like, have the whole band, have a part of the band writing together. Let's see where this leads to. I don't know.
And do you think that you could get to the same songs with both methods, or the method is affecting the results?
I think the method is affecting the results. I think it's really obvious. You can't be Led Zeppelin and work that way. Mm-hmm. Because you can't go because it's great when you're working to a click and a grid, but the interaction with musicians give that groove. You can define a groove and you can program a groove, but you can't get guys or girls in a room going lay back, push, pull. I mean, when I first started making records on tape, if I played bass on the recording, I wasn't wrong. I mean, sorry, the drummer wasn't wrong. I was wrong. I didn't hit it with the drummer. Now it'd be like, well, you know what? The drummer needs to come forward because he's a little bit off the grid. So it's very genre specific. If you want groove and you want Zeppelin and you want feel, you can't grid it.
That's a whole different topic.
It's a whole different.
Triggering everything to boring death. That's a whole different topic.
But the problem with that, and I'm sure the band's amazing, but you know, just taking the analogy of the band you're talking about, not the band because I haven't heard it, so I have no opinion. But if you take that analogy and make music that way, you've already defined how the music's going to sound.
Yeah.
That's it. Which is fine, and if that's the genre, but it's massively genre specific. If you want to be Tom Petty, you want to be anything with groove or feel and push and pull, then you've got to work together. You have to work together because you have to know where this guy and girl is going to play, where their feel is, whatever it is. And that's it. And it goes back to discussion about, like, you're hearing the difference between John Bonham, Keith Moon and Ringo. Exactly. They all completely have different feels.
Well, yeah, I guess it goes back to when I was talking about sports. You can split up a basketball team and have each person train in a different facility and stuff, and they could learn the exact same plays. But when you put them on the court, they're not going to have. There's a rhythm to it. There's a pace. But you know, that being said, all those NBA players, they do have their own trainers, and they all do their own separate exercises. But you got to get those boys together to learn that, you know, to learn how to talk.
I think it's important that I don't want to come across like, you know, because I can't stand the sort of gear sluts mentality of guys telling everybody off. It's total shit, you know what I mean? When I have to listen to that, it should be done, no, there is no should be. It's just like having an intelligence to understand what kind of music do you want to make. If you want to be, what's the new band last 3 years that won the Grammy 2 years ago, everybody loves? Greta Van Fleet. If you want to be Greta Van Fleet, then get in a room and make a record like Greta Van Fleet. They're a Zeppelin style band. They want a rest rock album. Anyway, the point is that if you want to be, that's the kind of rock band you want to be, and you listen to Zeppelin and Sabbath and stuff, and Deep Purple, then you get in a room and work. But if you want to be a band like you're talking about, then yeah, that's how you make the records. And there's no right way or wrong way. I want to really say that like 100 times because I get people on both sides, but unfortunately too many older people saying, those kids don't know what they're doing, and that's just not true.
Oh, it's the same guys whining about how nobody sounds like Led Zeppelin anymore, and then along comes Greta Van Fleet, and these same dudes are
sounds like
oh,
Led
it sounds
Zeppelin.
too much like Led Zeppelin. I already had, fuck you, buddy. Fuck you.
I worked with Jet on their second record, and I remember everybody's like, Jet sucks because they sound like AC/DC and Iggy Pop. I'm like, what do you want them to sound like? You know what I mean? You're telling me that nobody sounds like this classic rock, and then a band comes along and writes really good songs and has massive hits all over the world, and you don't like them because they sound like the bands
But
that you want them to sound.
then major respect to the Polyphia guys. They created new music.
Super unique.
Like 2019, create new music. I mean, they've been along like what, 8 years?
6 years.
6, 8 years.
8 years.
But I got introduced to their music. I didn't know them. And I was like, wow, this is fresh. This is new. I think it's awesome.
And yesterday we were having an interview with them.
A lot of pentatonic. Not so much anymore. I think they've gotten a lot more interesting and chromatic lately, and less metal as they go. And yeah, now they're like a melodic hip hop guitar thing, and it's so fresh and cool and very listenable and with broader appeal. And they've created something new, and all the guitar players of Earth want to do is fucking whine about it.
Oh, why? I haven't heard what are they complaining about?
I don't know, because it's
An instrumental. No voice.
it's instrumental, and they're really popular.
I didn't whine. I had the stupid idea of Tim teaching me a lick. And he's like, okay, look, it's easy. Holy shit, like how many days do we have to
Yesterday
learn
we
this?
had an interview with them, and they explained that they do everything digitally, so they never meet until it's time for rehearsal for tour. So everything is flashed back and forth.
It works, it's great.
Yeah.
I was thinking of a video that Samurai Guitarist did, and I watched it recently, that shows a little bit what we're talking here, because he hired a few musicians on Fiverr.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah, I saw that video.
yeah,
Shit, that's good content. I gotta watch that.
yeah, it's not
It's a great idea.
It's not only
I
working
really
only.
use for you so
I
much.
started from the beginning, like I wrote a chord progression, and then I got someone to write lyrics over top of it.
Yeah,
And then I
I
got
saw
someone to
this.
sing the lyrics, and then I got somebody to play the drums, and yeah, it was cool. I didn't know what it was going to turn into, but it was fun. It was interesting.
It was interesting because you were not only working in digital, but you didn't even know the guys, so they were not in your band. They didn't know what you do normally, so they just, okay, I'm gonna record, and the result, I think you defined it as generic, like
Yeah.
a little bit.
Oh, no, definitely. I mean, I didn't give anybody any guidance. I just said, just do whatever it is you do. And it's like, I wouldn't do it again to create the best art that I could ever make, but it's like, it's passable. They did a great job at it.
Absolutely.
But it sounds like it had no direction from the beginning.
Then what you said, like 10 minutes ago, made me think. Do you think it's easier to be an artist in the internet, being a solo artist, rather than a band?
Yeah, there's me.
Is that it? That's the video.
That's it.
That's the video.
Yeah.
Hiring musicians on Fiverr. Very good
People
video.
really like that one. I thought it was a throwaway video. I thought no one was going to be that interested.
No,
in it,
that sounds fun.
It's-
I'm gonna watch it.
but it was fun.
So the question is,
So the
solo
question-
artist or band?
Yeah, what do you think it's easier to promote and make popular?
I don't know. I'm a control freak, so I like to be a solo artist because I have control over everything. But then on the other hand, I totally am a human
No.
person, and I love Amy and the boys.
Smells
I
like
love
somebody's
hanging out with
smoking
them.
inside.
So it's
The
I
door.
like both.
Both are
I
interesting.
guess it really depends on what your goal is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Are you
Because
an
when,
ego
when
person
you're
or-
a solo artist, yeah, it's like you're completely on the line. So whatever the results are, it's always on you, 100%.
Exactly.
But you also have the most amount of control. Where with a band, you create, like you said, the more hands you have on something, sometimes the better it becomes. You know what I mean? And because you get the strengths of everybody, so there's like a neat collaborative effort.
Yes, exactly.
And because you're not maybe so on the line, you're able to do things that maybe you'd be too scared to try to do for your own stuff. Sometimes I notice that, like, when you write for yourself, you sometimes stop yourself. You hold yourself back a lot because you're worried. I've been in that situation. I've been in that situation where I've kind of held myself back. Whereas sometimes when I'm in a band, when I don't have to worry so much, I can just let it go and just let it happen, because it's part of that creative thing, and the other people bring out something in me that I didn't
exactly.
know. I think that's a better way to say it. They brought out something in me that I didn't really know was there,
Exactly.
or maybe I never even thought about. But they're I think is it's two different things, and they're both always going to be things. And there's a lot of solo artists that end up doing band stuff, and band guys that end up becoming solo artists. So I think it's just as relevant back 20 years ago as it is today. I don't think there's any strength or weakness back then than there is today, in my opinion.
So we're getting to the end of this roundtable.
Finally!
Yeah, right.
Just
so much
kidding.
talk.
I know you're hungry and thirsty probably. So is there any advice you would give to someone who starts a band today?
Yes, make whatever you want to do, but you have to make you happy. That's all.
Yeah, have fun with it. Same.
I think the one that all of us know doing YouTube channels: be consistent.
Yes. And do vlogs.
And don't do drugs.
Be happy.
And if
Stay
you
healthy.
do it in moderation.
Yeah.
And
Or don't get caught.
the biggest advice, be a human. Be a human. Stop trying to pretend to be the fastest shredder. I'm like the biggest rock star. Stop that bullshit. Nobody needs it. Be a human.
Emotions.
Guitarristas, gracias por haber estado ahí. Sobre todo, si habéis disfrutado, suscribiros al canal, hacedle clic al icono de la campanita y dejad vuestros comentarios aquí abajo. Hasta pronto, gracias.
Paella, paella.
Paella.
Tengo la
Thank you. Woo.